Now we want the users to be able to subscribe to notifications on the page. And again, Firebase makes this really easy to do. The first thing we need to do is create a service worker file specifically for Firebase messaging. So we're just going to do is create Firebase Messaging Serviceworker.js. I mistakenly made this in the JS file, but you need to put this in your root directory. So there it is there. And if we quickly go over to the Firebase docs, we can see that we need to import certain scripts and initialize our application. So we do this slightly differently because we don't actually need to reference these absolute URLs here. So I'm just going to copy and paste something that I have on file, and you can get this from the repository as well, or you can just copy it. So here are the files that we need to include, and then we're just initializing Firebase messaging. So that's all we need to do. We don't need to even reference this file anywhere. We just have to have it there and make sure that it's called Firebase Messaging Serviceworker.js. So now, like how we created a sign in button, we're just going to create a subscribe button. So let's just do that right here. Button subscribe. So ID. And then back here, like we always do, we're just going to create a reference to it. And then we're going to create an event listener. This is a function that we are about to create. Let's go down. Let's just add it here. Function subscribe to notifications. Now the whole subscription process takes about 3 steps for us. First, we need to request the user's permission. So get that pop-up that you've probably seen where it says this site wants to send you notifications. Then once we've done that and gotten the user's permission, we need to get the token. And then after that, we need to save the token to the database so that we can actually like reference it to be sending notification. So let's just take it step by step. First thing is request permission. So if we go up here, we have the Firebase messaging. And to do that, all we need to do is click Firebase messaging.request permission. Really simple, right? So let's just check that out right now. Let's go back to our file. So let's refresh the page. We have a subscribe button. So we click the subscribe button, and then we can see that the notification pop-up comes up, and really simple. So the user can say allow or block. So let's just click allow. But we haven't really done anything to handle that. So that comes to the second part, which is where we actually get the token. Let's go back here. So then after you've successfully gotten that, we now want to get token. So we just call Firebase messaging.get token. And then we have the token here. And let's just console.log token. And we can add a catch here. And let's just add user didn't give permission, sad face. Let's remove that. Okay. So let's go back again, refresh the page. When I click subscribe this time, the pop-up doesn't come again, obviously, because we've already gotten permission, but we've gotten the token, and you can see this is what it is here. So let's go back. And now what we want to do, the third part, is save it to the database. So instead of just console logging the token, you can still have it there, but let's just do more stuff here. So to add save stuff to the Firebase database, we need a reference to where we want to interact with the database with. So let's go back here. We have our database variable. So we're just going to paste it here and go .reference.ref. And we want /token should just be an array of all the tokens. So I'm going to have an object that has both the token itself and then the user whose token it is. So all we have to do to add a new item to that array is just .push. So basically just like JavaScript. And then the object that I want to push here. So first of all, the token, and then the user's ID, so UID. And we can get the current user's ID by referencing Firebase auth. And then we have the current user object. And that is just whichever the current user is, obviously, and then their UID. So let's do that. So let's check it out. So first of all, let's just go and do this again. So subscribe again, we have the token. Then I'm going to go back to the database, and we can see that we now have a new node, which is called tokens. And inside it, we have an object, and this is just the random ID that Firebase assigns to the object. Then we have the two things that we've specified here. So the user's ID and then their token. So now we have a place where all our tokens are being saved, and we can reference them when we want to actually send notifications out later. So before we move on, I'm just going to refactor this a little bit, because like how we have this authState changed function, Firebase Messaging has a similar thing, which is if the token has been refreshed. So what I want to do is create a different function here. So Firebase Messaging dot on token refresh. And then I'm going to say handle token refresh. So I'm going to create another function there. So function handle token refresh. And what this is going to do is just get the token and save the token to the database. So essentially this logic here, I want to move it to a separate function. So here I'm going to just going to copy this, .get token. I can actually just do this. Yeah, oops, done that. I'm just going to return it. Oops, typos. I'm going to remove the console log there. So instead of this part where I'm just doing it manually here, I'm just going to remove this and then just call this function handle token refresh instead. So this way we don't have to have the same thing written twice. Don't repeat yourself, as you probably know. So next, like we have a sign out button, we also need to provide a way for users to unsubscribe. So we're just going to go back here again and just do unsubscribe. I cannot type unsubscribe. Okay. So I'm just going to quickly do the same thing that we've been doing here. So unsubscribe. Correct. Then we're going to have unsubscribe button, and then we're going to have unsubscribe from notifications. And let's quickly create this function here. So function unsubscribe. And similar to subscribe notifications, we have a few steps to go through. So what we want to do when we unsubscribe is first delete the token from Firebase Messaging, and then also delete it from our database. So the first thing we need to do is obviously get the token. So Firebase Messaging.get token. And then with the token, all we need to do is call Firebase Messaging.delete token, and then pass in the token. So that's step one. And then the next step is to delete it from our database. And to do that, we need to query our database and find that node or that object where the UID is equals to the current user's ID. So let's just go to .then. So let's get the Firebase database. Okay, there it is. Firebase database .ref tokens. So what we want to do is order the list of tokens by the specific child, which is like the UID, user's ID, and make sure that we're only getting instances where it's equals to the current user's ID. So we can do that here by order by child, and then let's just do UID, and then dot equal to, I think that's what it is, equal to, and then to get the current user's ID, we can just copy this from here. And then we just want the value. So we just want to get an instance of that value here. So dot then, let's just hopefully see that we have the same thing. Snapshot is console.log snapshot. And let's just see that we actually have the correct thing going on here. So let's refresh the page and then click on subscribe. And don't worry about this warning for now. I'll get into how we can optimize the database later. But we can see here, actually Firebase values are a bit weird. So if we actually want to see the correct value, we just need to call snapshot.val actually. Let's go back, refresh, and let's try this again, unsubscribe. And then we can actually see the value here. So you can see the user's ID, which is going to be the same. If we actually want to check UID here, UID here. So we want to actually just delete that from the database. So what we need to do is get a reference to that particular node and then call .delete on it. So to get the key, what we can do is use object.keys on snapshot.val and just get the first key because we know it's like just one. And then what we can do is return Firebase.ref tokens, so accessing that again, but first of all .child, and then we're using the key, and then all we have to do is call .remove on it, and that is it. Like the user's node will be removed. So let's quickly check to see if that works. So let's refresh the page, click on subscribe, and then if we go back to our database, we can see that it's been deleted. So that's subscribe and unsubscribe. And finally, we just want to change things with the buttons again, like we did sign in, sign out. We want to hide or show buttons depending on if the user has been subscribed or unsubscribed. So I'm going to do that real quick right now. First, what I'm going to do is just create a function to actually check if the user's data is there. So let's just create a function. It says function check subscription, right? And we're going to actually call this whenever we see that there is a user, and we can also call it whenever the user subscribes or unsubscribes. We want to check it again. So what we want to do is actually check to see, we can just copy this right here. We're trying to check to see if that value actually exists. So .then snapshot. So if snapshot.val so similar to what we did here with hiding and not hiding. In fact, I'm just going to copy this. So if the user is subscribed, we want the subscribe button to be hidden, and then the unsubscribe button to not be hidden. Then just do the opposite there, and then subscribe button. And if we just go back to our HTML, I want to hide both of these by default. And then what we want to do is call this check subscription button only if there's a user. So we can come here and do check subscription. So as you can see what we're doing here, first of all, checking to see if there's a user. If there is, then we want to check if they're subscribed, and that's when the subscribe or unsubscribe button will be shown or hidden. So let's just check to see, hopefully that works. Refresh the page. Okay, cool. So we can see that the user hasn't been subscribed, so the subscribe button shows. And one thing I forgot to do is we want to call check subscription after the user has subscribed or unsubscribed, so that they get like instant feedback. So if we go to our subscribe function, we can just call .then check subscription. Oops, I should stop doing that. And we can do the same thing here. .then. Should probably add a .catch here somewhere just in case. Unsubscribe failed. Sad face. So okay, let's try this. So let's refresh. So subscribe button shows. Let's click it. Okay, unsubscribe is now showing. We can actually go back to our database, see that we have a token there. Let's go back and then unsubscribe, and then the button changes and we can go back and see that it's been deleted. So I'm just gonna subscribe because obviously that's kind of what I want to do here. And refresh the page and we are all good.